sexual relations.
And I realized that this is something he is
We're not going to be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, we're live right here in the studio. Thank you for tuning in this morning. We've got John Stanberry, Franklin Chansey, and of course myself, Steve Hickson, and Derek
Derek and the Dominoes.
Derek and the Dominoes are here with us. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Backfire. I can't even function this morning. My motor hadn't been turned on yet. Daniel Brantley, my mind went blank. Our chief engineer is in the studio.
We want Derek.
Oh, golly. John, you wanted to talk about some taxes this morning. Let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, if you don't want your taxes raised, you need to be showing up at these district meetings that they're holding. And I'll be honest, I didn't read the article. Someone called me and read it to me. Mm-hmm. But as the Banner reported, apparently 86% of the people say that their number one priority are the salaries. And I'm sorry, I just have a hard time believing that. That just 86%.
Of whom?
Of the population.
Which population are they?
Well, that's what I don't know. Where do you get that number? I cannot imagine.
It has to be from the people getting it.
Well, now, it might be my salary. I mean, if you said it like that, is your income. But I can't imagine that 86% of the people in Bradley County think that the county salary problem is their number one concern. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that.
What do you think, Franklin?
Well, maybe it was lots of county employees that came to the meeting.
That's a possibility.
I'd say that
seems logical.
Other people out working, aren't they, John?
Well, here's the thing. The county employees do a wonderful job, but, as an industry, if you put them all together, it's the largest single block of employment type in the county. And as a small government Republican, I have to say that seems like a problem. When your largest industry group is government itself, that's a concern.
Tell us what you think.
Now that's teachers, and and I'm not talking about state and federal government employees. This is just local employees. Largest group of industry.
I wonder how that would compare to similar size cities around the state.
Well, I don't know
the answer to that question.
Yeah, but Franklin, that's an argument you and I have had before. Mm. If everybody in the world is going to hell in a handbasket, I don't feel comforted by going, well, we're going to.
Well, it wasn't quite going that extreme.
I know, you heard. I mean, that's like the city when they brought out that chart and they said, oh, look where our tax rate is compared to everyone around us, therefore we should raise taxes. Well, I'm sorry, that's a bogus comparison. I don't care what anyone else is doing. Personally, I think government always grows. I think our founders wrote the Constitution in an attempt to limit that as much as possible, and I think in the last 50 years we have thwarted that attempt pretty severely, and government is getting out of hand.
Government is out of hand. There's no doubt about that. I'm talking about all government.
And I'll go back to what I said several years ago. The little town down in South Georgia that actually sold off, privatized their police department, privatized their fire department. The services, the satisfaction in the community went up, and the costs went down.
Where is that place? Let's go visit it.
It's down below Atlanta. They went down to 5 city employees, or county. I don't know if it's city or county.
That'd be a good study. How long have they been doing that now?
It's been 10 years or more, or 15 probably.
Is it still working that way?
As I understand it.
Yeah.
Well, they fund it. They still have taxes. The point is they just don't run the business.
They don't spend the money.
They contract out. For example, they talked to a fire chief that was in a private for-profit fire department. And they said, well, how is it? Because they looked at the costs. And the cost for equipment, for example, was significantly cheaper. And they said, well, how is it that you can do that? Equipment is equipment. He said, yeah, but for example, he said, you can buy a super cab that's like 4 inches bigger than the cabs we buy. And he said, but it cost about $200,000 more. He said, you can buy a cab with cushion glide seats in it, and it greatly extends the cost. He said, we don't buy that. He said, they're only riding in it 5 minutes, from the hall to the fire hall. So they cut hundreds of thousands of dollars off the cost of the equipment per piece just by going, look, this is not needed. 4 inches isn't worth it. A super glide seat isn't worth it.
Oh, well.
So if you don't want your taxes raised, you better show up, because the commission, they've already made up their mind, and they're looking for an excuse.
This is the county commission.
Well, the city's talking about it, too, from what I
The
understand.
city just went up on their taxes, didn't they?
28% last year.
And they're talking about it again?
Is the city really talking about raising the taxes right now? I have not heard that, actually.
I haven't heard it. But
Last week you said it was a rumor.
The city manager, a month and a half after the last tax increase, publicly stated that they needed more, and they needed another increase.
Well. I have city council approved Nicholas Lilios' pilot agreement where they're going to waive the property taxes on his 44,000 square foot 2-story structure located at 241st Street. He's given them plans and some of these things. So the pilot will freeze the property taxes for the project for 10 years. The assessed value for the property is $397,600. Now then, that's fine, and I think that should be happening. But what happens should he take 20 years to build that? I wonder if they've got any contracts with timelines on them and so forth.
I don't know, but personally, I don't mind things like that. I think that's the way you stimulate.
That is. I agree with it. I'm for it, but I just think they ought to put a contract around time limits. But that could be drug out for 20 years. Yeah, but what happens if after 10 he doesn't build the thing? Anyway, I think there ought to be, probably is some kind of paperwork around that, I hope. Liquor stores. Hey, we're getting some more liquor stores. Right now, I believe we're going to have more liquor stores in Chattanooga, aren't we?
Well, for about 12 months would be my guess.
Somebody said there was only 11 liquor stores in Chattanooga.
But that's good, since some of the tax revenue will be going to Hamilton County. So, that's only fair.
For tax revenue for what, the liquor stores?
Yeah, because that was a bogus presentation. We were given huge numbers for the tax. That tax, and I talked about this, that tax is not divided up the way the wine and beer tax is divided up.
How is it divided?
They take the total sales, and then they actually divide it by the total number of people in the entire state. And it's then paid back to the counties based on the population. So theoretically, we could actually get less of our money, and some of it could go to Hamilton County because they have more people.
You still get the sales tax, though, right? In other words, there's an additional liquor tax.
I guess it's the additional liquor tax.
That's what
You're probably right about that. So you would have the sales tax increase. But the point is, and it's not the entire state, it's every county that has authorized liquor store sales. Mm-hmm. But we don't actually get directly what we produce. It's based on our population.
That's the first I've heard that. Where'd you get that information?
That's in the state. All you got to do is look up the law. Okay. The estimates I read were around $60,000 to $80,000 a year. Now, we were told it was going to be like $500,000, and maybe the sales tax will be a bump. I don't know.
Yeah.
Since we're Church of God headquarters, we may get more money from other counties than we give. Just because we may have fewer drinkers.
You think? Okay.
Who knows? We were dry until a few years ago. Here's another thing in the local paper that got my attention. I love Donna up there, but I just got to talk about this. It's $5 archive fee added to the clerk's office. Mm-hmm. Now, this is in Donna's office up there, and it's $5 more per document.
So that means when you register your car, it'll be $5 more. When you go get a marriage license, it'll be $5 more. When you do any transaction in there, there'll be a $5 charge attached to it.
Any transaction, and I was trying to find the deal. There's several things they take in there, but like you said, the marriage license, the car registrations, license for this and license for that. But they're going to start charging a $5 fee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how much rent do they pay? They're talking about this will bring in an extra $200,000 a year.
It's all supposedly directed toward the requirement that they archive documents.
That's buying some more file drawers and stuff
Well,
like
presumably
that. Probably
not. Presumably, it's more along the lines of computers and servers and scanning and archiving them, that sort of thing.
Okay.
I'm not defending the charge. I'm saying
I'm not saying anything. Donna, I love her.
we do the same thing in other
Was
offices.
there already a charge? Is this on top
No.
of a?
This is a new fee. This is
But what I mean is, was there already some kind of fee that
all right,
went directly
you
to
go
the
up there
office?
you go up there to register your car, right?
Right.
You're going to take some paperwork up there and you're going to register it. It's going to cost you $5.
No, I understand that, but my question is, prior to this,
Yes.
how do they generate the revenue needed to run the office?
Well, the registration fee. In other words, you go up there and pay your car tag.
I know, but how much of that goes to the county is what I'm asking.
There's a portion of that stays local, but I don't know how much it is. And if you've ever noticed when you get your registration, there's a list of different states, different counties in there, and there are different amounts to register.
Well,
your
actually,
car
I was
in
going to say
different
that.
places.
This is old numbers, but years ago I was told, and it was right after I got a ticket from the Highway Patrol, but the ticket was like $140. And someone told me that the state portion of that ticket, the Highway Patrol portion, was $2. That there were several states or several counties in the state where you were actually fined $2. The rest of it was all local fees and court costs and things assessed by each county. So what I was told is it was only a $2 actual fine.
Here's what's going to happen, John. The $5 fee there is going to raise $200,000 more dollars. That's, it's another type of tax.
Oh, a fee's always a tax.
Yeah. What's going to happen next is every other agency up there is going to start charging fees.
Well, actually,
They're
they're
already doing that.
Multiple
That $5
offices
fee is
that-
actually being charged in a lot of offices already.
Where is that?
a lot of
Court
them
clerk
have generate
offices
fees.
all do that.
I don't know.
And that's actually
Now this is not a comment on whether they need this or not, okay? Because I don't know what the additional expenses they're having to deal with are for
Right.
archiving documents. But this is one of my arguments where John and I probably agree, which is don't tell me you don't raise taxes.
a fee's a tax.
All right? These are taxes.
Right.
This user fee concept is absurd to me. And there's tons and tons of these all through government, and they like to campaign and say, "Well, we didn't raise taxes." Not that Donna Alley Simpson gets to decide whether taxes go up or not. That's not what I mean. But the government does it all the time, and there are hundreds of dollars of these that people pay all the time.
I've said this before in building a house. If you go back probably 6 or 8 years, 10 years, there were 3 inspections from start to finish to build a house. I think there's 7 or 8 now. And every inspection, there's another fee, there's a delay, all of that costs money.
I was talking to a builder the other day, and these were just figures that came off the cuff. There wasn't anything actually there, but in reference to building a house in Cleveland, building a house in Polk County, he said the cost would probably be about $5,000 in fees.
Right. Right. And those are taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we said that. The city used to brag, we haven't raised your taxes. Yeah, but you've implemented ungodly number of fees. And those are taxes. Well, yeah, and apparently, and by the way, if I'm wrong and there's not discussions about the city raising taxes, we've got city councilmen out there. Please call in and set me straight and tell me that there are no discussions about raising our city taxes.
614.
That way I can focus on the county who's talking about raising our taxes.
614-5553.
Oh, golly. What else is going on in the world? Franklin, anything particular you want to talk about this morning?
Anything in particular going on?
Sure. That you'd like to talk about?
Well, from a management style, what do you think about the president's rapid turnover of cabinet positions and so forth? I didn't say that in a critical way.
I understand.
I'm just talking about there's really kind of unprecedented.
Well, it is
good or
unprecedented.
bad. I don't know. That remains to be seen. But there doesn't seem to be a long lifespan for people who are appointed to head up these agencies under the Trump administration.
Well, there can be two causes for that. Obviously, I think one of the causes is he's very hands-on. He makes a lot of the final decisions, and so I think he views these people sort of as underlings that manage the day-to-day, and he makes the big calls. And so from that standpoint, I don't think it's particularly alarming to see him roll over, because I think he's pretty hands-on in all of these departments. But there's also something to consider in how ugly, I mean, I think it's over 90% of the press coverage is negative on this administration. And I think
I
that...
didn't say anything negative about
listen
him.
to me. I think that wears on the people that take these positions.
Well, these aren't resignations; these are firings.
Well, some of them are resignations.
So that's what we're talking about here.
Franklin,
Or forced resignations.
even some of the forced resignations are because they're not doing what he wants them to do, and a lot of the reason is because they just get absolutely hammered in the press every time they do anything.
He wants somebody to be tougher, Franklin.
You know, he had a press gaggle the other day, and they were talking about Secretary Nielsen, who had resigned, and they said, "Oh, isn't it terrible that she had these children in cages?" Well, the president reminded them that those cages were built by Obama and the Obama administration. That they didn't build the cages.
The forced separation policy was not the Obama.
Yes, actually it was, Franklin.
It was not.
It absolutely was. It was a court ruling during the Obama administration that forced the separation, and Obama's own people have come out publicly and stated that they did the same.
They have not.
They
come out and said
absolutely
they put
have,
children
Franklin.
in those
They
facilities.
separated children in those because a judge ordered it.
What were the cages built for, Franklin? I mean, what were they built for?
They were meant to be very short-term, temporary holding areas.
Because they could see
Not
through them.
people here month after month after month.
I saw them talking about that, and it said they built them so they could see through them in case there was any harm going on.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that was done under Obama's term. But irregardless, your question was why was it we thought Trump was?
I just ask you what
Changing.
your thoughts are on whether it's a good or a bad thing.
Okay.
I mean, understand when
That's fine.
he's only been in office a little over 2 years, and you're talking about, and I would say, being candid for anybody, any president, it probably takes you 6 months when you get one of these jobs to figure out what's going on, because these are big organizations that you're running.
Yeah.
Right? So they're literally there 12, 14 months, and then they're out, which means the next person who comes in going to take 6 months to figure out
Well, the
what's
next
going
person
on.
he's got in there now knows what he's doing, right?
They haven't replaced him yet.
Well, the acting. Trump
Well,
says he
actually,
likes acting.
Actually, the acting person offered her resignation yesterday.
Trump said he likes acting. He can appoint those. Anyway, what do you think about? What do I think about it? I want to answer that question. I think Trump, he has laid down what he expects, just like in a business. You lay everything out, you get everything running right, and then all of a sudden you find there's areas where there's problems, and you go back and you clean those areas up. I think Trump's going back. He's catching all kinds of stuff on that border. We've got a problem down there on that border. They're having to fight the Democrats.
Well, we aren't just
right and
talking
left.
about the Department of Homeland Security, though. We're talking about lots of these organizations.
Well, I'm saying he's
And Franklin J. Johnson,
he
President
hey,
Obama's
that's
national...
part of the swamp. That's part of the swamp, Franklin.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, everything he does is helping clean the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Johnson admitted that they built those cages and that they separated people at the border. And you can't deny it, Franklin, because the original court ruling that actually forced that was during the Obama administration. How do you deny that? It was a Ninth Circuit Court judge who ruled they had to separate children, and they
There is
did.
no doubt that they were implementing a Trump policy here.
Franklin,
There is
Obama
no
did
factual-
the same
No.
thing, is what I'm telling you. Jay Johnson admitted it. Obama's actual DHS secretary.
Well,
By
let
the
me-
way, just so you get an idea of this, Jay Johnson, who was Obama's Homeland Security Secretary, just last week said that when he got reports that they apprehended less than 1,000 people at the border, that was a good day. And over 1,000 was a bad day. They are apprehending over 4,000 a day now. Jay Johnson, Obama's Homeland Security, said it's an absolute disaster at the border.
It is a disaster. Why won't the Dems help fix this problem? It's just one vote they've got to fix it with. Who is the bill? There's some bill in there that declares about the kids or something.
Well, here's Obama's former Border Patrol chief, Mark Morgan. He testified, and he says that the border crisis was this is a quote, at a magnitude never seen in modern times, and urged Washington to put a stop to what is virtually an open border policy. That's Obama's Border Patrol chief.
Franklin, let me ask you something. Do you think America really wants those open borders like that?
Nobody is arguing for open borders.
Julian Castro, one of your candidates for president, Franklin.
Nobody's actually arguing for it.
Julian Castro is. He put forward.
Actually, why won't the president talk truthfully about the situation?
He has.
No, he really
He's
hasn't.
the only one that has talked about it.
Really? Was this truthful when he said this yesterday or last week? These aren't people; they're animals. Was he talking truthfully
He was
there?
talking about
I
MS-13.
think he's a piece of crap.
He was talking about MS-13,
No,
Franklin.
he wasn't.
You know, people
No, he wasn't, and you
people
gotta
that
get off
actually
that.
decapitate their victims.
You guys have got to stop
You know what,
making
Franklin?
excuses for this piece of
A
human
thug that
garbage.
decapitates innocent people is a damned animal.
He was not talking
You
about
think he
it.
talks about everybody like that? You
Yeah,
think he was
yeah,
talking
actually,
about?
Steve,
you
I
think,
do.
You think he was
I
talking
do,
about?
Steve.
Well, you've been brainwashed by Communist News Network. Then you have been brainwashed.
The problem is we use the president's own words, and you guys come in here and go,
Franklin,
"Oh, he didn't mean what he said."
Franklin, he's talking
He
about
knows what he's doing. He's a freaking genius.
Everything
according
he-
to y'all,
every-
but he didn't know what he said. He didn't mean what he said. We can't rely on the president's
like Nancy
words.
Pelosi said Elon Omar didn't mean what she said.
You mean
didn't
like
understand?
You mean like the
didn't
president
understand that she
claiming
was an
3 times
anti-Semitic?
last year that his father was born in Germany when he wasn't?
Frank.
He's just a liar.
If the Dems think there's a problem at the border, why won't they do something in Congress to help fix it?
They have tried repeatedly
Did they?
to do that.
Did
What?
the president
What have they
offer
done?
to increase the bed space? And this just a month ago, your party denied an offer to try and increase the actual bed space so these people could actually be detained more. And by the way, Franklin, is Julian Castro running for president as a Democrat on your
Last
ticket?
time I heard.
Did you read his open border announcement just last week?
I did not see an open
He
borders.
proposed to decriminalize illegal immigration and to actually do away with the ICE people.
That is not an open border policy.
Franklin, if it's not a crime to come, he wanted to take down the walls that have already been built. This is his proposal. He wanted to decriminalize crossing the border, and he wanted to do away with ICE in the enforcement area. Now, how is that not
And he wants
an
to
open border?
increase the legal judicial side of it so that those things get handled more quickly.
But Franklin, if you're not apprehending them and you're not prosecuting them, that's an open border. What in the hell's wrong with you?
First of all, most of the people that you're talking about
tell you
are
what.
coming through legal
I
checkpoints.
tell you what, Franklin,
aren't they?
you by all
Isn't that
means
the truth?
have
Wait a
your
minute.
Let's talk
president
about the
run on
truth.
that-
No,
that
it's
state.
not.
Yeah, they are.
How
That's
do you-
where they're
how do
showing
you-
up.
How do you know the drugs and everything else are not coming over the other side?
Because
How do you know, Franklin?
our law
How do you know
enforcement
what's going
officials
on?
have been saying it for a decade that most of it come through checkpoints.
Franklin, you've been watching Communist News.
You just travel in these myths they give you.
Franklin,
It doesn't matter what the facts are. Y'all don't care.
No, open your eyes and look around. Who thinks like you?
Most of the
Julian
country.
Castro and,
Huh?
and
Most
all
of the country.
crazy
Who are you
gonna vote
Democrat
for?
President.
Somebody
right now,
with a brain.
Right now, if you had to vote tomorrow, who would you vote for?
That's an interesting
Have
question.
you got one person in the Democratic Party
All right.
that's running that you would even consider?
Oh, yeah.
Who?
Let's see. I can go down the list.
Please.
All right. I really like the following people. It's a
Okay.
group of people.
All right.
I like Amy Klobuchar. I like Kamala Harris. I think that this Buttigieg guy is making a lot of sense. There's 3 right off the bat.
Buddha?
Buttigieg.
Oh, the Jewish hater?
The what?
What's his name? Buttigieg. He's the guy that talks so softly.
Buttigieg is the mayor of South Bend,
He's the
Indiana.
guy that had a wonderful relationship with his governor,
Right.
who couldn't find a single thing that his governor did to him, who is now saying that his governor is a horrible person. The vice president is a horrible person who is damaging people right now.
He's trying to make a religious.
By the way,
deal out of
this
him
is
being gay.
Let me tell you that this is actually what one of our Karish, as one of the border patrol people on the border, said that they are apprehending people from 50 different countries crossing the border, including China, Bangladesh, Turkey, Egypt, and Romania.
Let's talk about that a minute. Why do you think those people want to come to America?
Well, a few of them might want to actually
few.
damage the country, might want to be terrorists, are terrorists.
Well, what else is there? Is
But
there
John, they're animals, not people.
Well, wait a
right?
minute.
Well, frankly, the
Isn't that what the president
MS-13
said?
people are animals.
Some people are. He doesn't claim all of them are, Franklin.
Actually, that's the only ones he talks about,
Oh,
though.
Franklin, you
that's
just-
the problem. And this is the reason why this is a load of crap. Okay, the president doesn't want to solve this problem. He has zero interest in it because he can continue to beat you
He
guys
offered
over
a
the
path
head,
to
and you guys will
citizenship
keep
to
swallowing
1.8
it.
million of
Franklin.
them, more than Obama ever offered, and your party turned him down.
Franklin, you're against the wall that you were for.
You voted for it.
You voted
authorized
for
it.
it. You authorized it. Now,
And now
you're
you're
not
against
for
it.
It's because the name is Trump under the president that you don't want anything. You don't want anything.
I'm for real, honest solutions, and this president couldn't possibly offer one
I'll tell you
if his
what.
life depended on
Let's
it.
let's just shut up for about 2 years and see what happens.
So here's a report.
Let's shut up for 2 years and see
We'll do
what
that.
happens.
We'll watch the president
Well-
create his little autocracy where he runs everything without any input from anybody.
Well, it would
because
be
he
nice.
knows best.
You
Wouldn't
mean
it
like
be
I
nice?
have a,
Wouldn't
you
it
mean
be
like I
nice?
have a phone and a pen? That kind of autocracy? I have a pen and I have a phone and a pen, like Obama said. I can do whatever I want. Here's the really scary thing. Obama did all these things. You have a federal judge, a liberal federal judge that has now actually ruled that Obama's executive orders are permanent. Now, the whole argument, and I said it at the time, and Franklin agreed at the time, that anything Obama did under an executive order could be undone by the next guy. So Trump goes in, this is in the Arctic Reserve, and says, okay, I'm going to open up a few more areas for oil exploration that Obama took off the books. A federal judge, of course, an Obama-appointed federal judge, said, no, Obama's orders are actually lifetime, or infinite orders, and Trump doesn't have the authority to reverse them. How do you feel about that, Franklin? Do you want to live under the...
Exactly what I said. Well, first of all, that will be appealed, won't it? Yes.
How long will it take?
I don't know. How
So
long will it take?
it'll
The
still
federal-
be a federal judge effectively stopping the president of the United States from exercising his duly authorized abilities.
happens all the time.
It hadn't happened like this.
It has.
Frankly, you have 3 judges that have now shut down every attempt President Trump has made to
And
get the
some of
border
those
under
have been
control.
upheld, and some of those have
But
not.
Franklin, you didn't see conservative
Yes,
judges
actually, John,
thwarting
we did.
Obama. No,
Yeah,
you
we
didn't.
did, John.
You did not.
You live in an alternate reality.
Okay,
where you guys didn't do any of
Did
the
we
things you're
shut
talking
down?
about.
Did we shut down his executive orders?
Actually, John, you tried to shut everything down
I didn't say
repeatedly.
tried. I didn't say there weren't people that took it to court, Franklin. But conservative judges didn't do that.
Actually,
Your
some of
liberal
them did.
judges have stuck their nose in everything this president has tried to do, and nobody elected those people.
Hey, I had somebody come up to me the other day with a really great idea, I thought.
And what would that be?
They said that, the Democrats keep wanting Trump's taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that Trump ought to give it to them.
Okay.
If they get it for every politician that's been in office over 10 years, and let's go through all their taxes and see how they made their money in
Fine.
politics.
Fine.
That would be fine with me. I'd do it.
Fine.
I think Donald Trump would do it.
Fine.
I wish he'd come out with that idea.
Well, let me ask you a question. I actually had
Absolutely.
something on this.
Okay.
Franklin, if Trump had cheated on his taxes, do you honestly believe that the IRS wouldn't have been on him like I can't say what?
Stink on
Like-
crap. Go ahead and say it.
Do you not think they would have eaten someone like him alive if he had done
Of
something
course.
illegal on his
Of
taxes?
course.
I think you underestimate what really skilled tax lawyers can accomplish.
You mean what they can get legally done?
No, what they can get approved finally.
But that's the point, Franklin. It's approved. I wouldn't argue with you
John,
that people that have access to lawyers and
I didn't make
accountants.
the argument that the president
Look,
broke the law. I didn't say that.
They are. House Ways and Means Chairman is demanding that the IRS.
The real question that the reason that we want these tax returns, and we should want them from every president, not just Donald Trump, is to know, so that we know that the president's actions aren't things that are just intended to benefit himself.
Franklin,
and every president,
did
we
the
should want
American
that.
people know that he wasn't going to turn over his tax
We
returns?
voted him in
and
as
elect
president.
him?
Actually, what he said was, I'm sure right after the election I'll be able to do that.
He's still under audit on these.
He's been under audit
Yes,
for
he
12
has,
years.
which is actually
He'll
our
never
argument.
not be under
That's
audit.
our argument. The IRS
What does
has
that
been
have to do with
because
releasing the
if he had done
information, John?
anything illegal, the IRS would have been all over it, which they are.
First of all, what does the under audit thing have to do with
Because
releasing
it's
it?
more the point here, Franklin.
No, there is no point. It's a crappy,
the American
stupid excuse
people
that has no
elected him.
basis in it.
He's been elected.
So what?
Well, you all need to accept it.
Why don't
That's
you-
your problem.
Why have you?
Who's y'all, John?
You.
The majority
Let
of people
all of your,
didn't vote
all
for
of
him.
your
Let's talk about
crazies.
A majority
How
of
about you?
Americans didn't vote for
Wait a
him.
minute.
How
You know
should they
what,
accept
Franklin?
that?
How about you, Franklin? Can you accept him for 2 years?
I've already accepted him.
Well,
Franklin?
then how come
He's
you
the
complain?
president.
Are we a democracy?
Yes.
No, we're not. We're a federal
Yeah,
republic.
well,
look it
yeah,
up.
John,
Why don't you look
okay.
up history, Franklin?
Well, John, you just keep
Federal
it up
republic.
because you are slowly
are
making
we or
sure
are
that
we not?
changes.
Are we a
Oh, yes,
democracy
John.
or a
Yes,
federal
John.
republic?
But
Which
you
are
are,
we?
But I just said yes, John. But you are slowly and surely making sure that that's going to change.
No, I'm not. You
Yeah,
people
you
are.
will.
Because Democrats are now asking.
Because you're
they want-
increasingly representing a smaller and smaller chunk of the country. That's just a
Why
fact.
don't you try winning a electoral college election?
Why don't you try convincing a majority of Americans
Obama
that you're right?
did.
Well,
That's
I'll tell you what I'll do, Franklin. Let's close the border in 30 years. I'll do it. You can't just let everybody in the world come in and vote.
Well, look, they want
Who
them to
said
vote.
anything about that?
The Democrats.
People did.
No, they didn't.
Yes, you did. Stacey Abrams actually said she wanted illegals to vote in Georgia.
Let's
You
take a
got
break.
you're giving them licenses in San Francisco.
We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
I don't know. It's above and beyond my recognition. Really, it's just another walk in the park. I hadn't paid it any attention.
Hello. I'm the doctor.
And you're listening to WOOPLP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Yeah, you looking for something sweet? I know you are. Bring your little sweet self to the Village Bake Shop. Around since 1961, there ain't a baked good in the galaxy the Village Bake Shop can't whip up for you. So when you're ready to treat your mouth to a taste you won't soon forget, get over to the Village Bake Shop in the Village Green Town Center, or give them a call at 476-5179. You dig?
Matthews Pool and Spa Company, located in Cleveland, Bradley County for over 45 years. You know them. They're your new swimming pool construction and supply company in Cleveland, Tennessee, now with 4 generations of Matthews to serve you. Matthews Pool and Spa Company, for over 45 years, your swimming pool construction and supply company, spa or hot tub installation and maintenance. Get all of your supplies for your pool or spa right now. That's the new location in the old Quinn Electric Company building behind KFC at 2724 Key Street in Cleveland. Call Matthews now, 476-4521. You better get your order in now for your new pool construction for this spring and summer. 476-4521. Matthews Pool and Spa Company. Gonna jump in. Woo!
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right. Every Saturday.
from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
Every Saturday.
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
Attention, Cleveland area creditors. Are you tired of dealing with debtors that owe you money? I'm Jeff Renfro, and I've owned and operated Financial Recovery, a debt recovery specialist here in my hometown of Cleveland for 18 years. We're a licensed and bonded Tennessee collection agency working for a wide variety of creditors, from commercial, manufacturing, physicians, dentists, attorneys, small business owners, to individuals. Look, any kind of business dealing with billing, charge accounts, or even return checks. I know your past due accounts are not a top priority for you, but they would be to me. Let me try to make it easy for you to make a change in the way you've been handling your accounts. There's no contract and no cost to you in most cases, as our fee of only 30% can be added to the balance owed to you. So, whether you have hundreds of accounts monthly and need help with your billing and collection, or you're just an individual and somebody owes you money, let me help you. Give me a call at 400-5376 and I'll come by and see you. That's 400-5376.
Financial Recovery, a licensed and bonded collection agency in Cleveland, Tennessee, 400-5376.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
Why would you put up with a heating and cooling system that cycles on and off when you can have quiet, true comfort, variable speed by train? It runs at low speeds with continuous little adjustments to keep your home comfortable and quiet. It's always been hard to stop a train. Now, it's hard to hear one.
When you want an unconventionally efficient heating and air unit that keeps your home right in the comfort zone, day in and day out, nothing will do but a train. To get the best train service, call your local train comfort specialist. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. Keeping you comfortable is Mechanical Systems' only business, and they've been providing high-quality service and installation for more than 30 years. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. That's 336-5739.
It's hard to stop a train.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on Woo FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, we had an interesting first half. Let's start the second. Should American citizen status be allowed on the census?
Used to be. Makes common sense.
Why is it not allowed now?
Because the Democrats know that if they don't ask that question, they're right about participation. They get more participation from illegal immigrants.
And that is the purpose of the census.
Hang on. No, actually, that's a whole different argument. But the reason they want that is because it inflates the number of congressmen that come from liberal districts.
California,
New York. It inflates those numbers.
Well, John, being the strict constructionist that he is about the Constitution, knows that the Constitution says you're supposed to count the people residing there, not the number of citizens. That's what it says. Now, you're welcome to change that. But I know John is very much about interpreting the Constitution the way it's written.
Well, first off,
and that's what it says.
We didn't actually say don't count them. We simply asked.
Yes, but there's no question that the intent is so they knowing they won't answer the question,
well, frankly,
and therefore won't be counted.
What's the intent?
So the intent of the Gustitution is what you're trying to get around.
What's the intent of asking your race on a form to buy a gun?
We've got unlimited borders with people coming in. And we're trying to take a census on how many people are in America. We don't know how many illegals we have here right now. We don't know it.
But the point is they want the most of them counted as they can get because it increases their power in Congress.
You're supposed to
it's a blatant power grab on the Democrats' part.
Huh?
You're supposed to want that too. That's
Franklin,
what the
personally,
Constitution
I'll be honest
says.
with you. If I were president and I would get hammered just like Trump gets hammered, I would come out and say, I don't want a single illegal alien counted. Because this is the United States of America. There is a process to become a citizen. I want every single citizen to participate, but I don't want one single non-citizen.
And then what you're saying is that whole oath you take when you become president is meaningless because that's what you're required to do.
Frankly,
is defend
the
that Constitution.
founders had no intention for it to be used this way. No intention.
Because all those colonists and then they all had official
and on top of that,
citizenship
Franklin,
cards.
we're not even talking about that. All we're talking about is asking a question. We're not talking about excluding anybody. We're saying we're asking a question.
Up until the 1880s, 1890s, we didn't have any way of keeping up with what was a citizen. Anybody that came in was a citizen at that point. That's a new concept.
Well, I think what we ought to do is use ICE to do the census report.
Franklin, are you familiar with sulfur drugs?
Somewhat from a layman's perspective.
Were fairly successful, so I guess when penicillin came along, we shouldn't have adapted to it. We should have just said front drugs are what we used to use.
John, I am the person who spends my time over here talking about that I think the Constitution ought to be interpreted in front of modern conditions.
I don't want to interpret.
You are the one who's always arguing against it.
I'm saying that the president has the legal authority to manage immigration laws, and you have liberal judges that are interfering with the president's duly given authority.
How did that ever happen?
Well, because
how can a liberal judge?
Because they think they're so much smarter than the rest of us that it's okay for them to I printed off a really neat sign the other day. It says socialism. Ideas so good, they have to be mandatory. That's how that works. They think they're so much smarter than us that it's okay to force us to do things because we're a bunch of dumb peons who don't know what's right.
I think this thing's going to blow up in your face, Franklin. The whole Democratic Party's coming unraveled right now. I mean, it really is.
Didn't appear that way from all the money that small donors were sending them.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because right now the Democrats are starting to be on different teams. They're not wanting their money to go.
Teams.
Yeah, they divided up into teams, and some of them are getting money over here, and they don't want the money to go to the Democratic National Party.
Donations to the candidates themselves.
Well, I'm just telling you,
they were at record levels right now, and most of them from smaller donors.
What's Obama talking about the other day? Circling the candidates.
Actually, Obama said you should be able to talk about immigration and being against open border immigration and not be called a racist. Obama said that just the other day.
What was he talking about, circling the candidates?
He said they shouldn't be firing on each other just because they have some disagreement.
He also said they shouldn't be moving so far to the left, that they're getting out of hand.
I think the Dem Party's in.
And when Obama thinks that you're too far to the left, you're pretty
Steve,
left.
I don't know if you noticed or not.
Yeah, I'm listening.
But the Democrats won a majority of the Congress last time, and they won it primarily in centralist.
You're right. And now they're not governing that way, and you'll probably lose the both of those.
I wish we had another election tomorrow. I swear.
I'm sure you do.
I guarantee you. I wish we could clean house everywhere. It's time to get this swamp cleaned up, Franklin. It is time. I like that idea of these politicians going back into their tax records and finding out how they've made all this money.
Fine. Have your Republican congressman here introduce that legislation.
Bernie Sanders, the socialist, had to admit the other day that he's become a millionaire.
Right. How did he become a millionaire?
Through capitalism.
Why don't you get your Republican congressman to introduce that legislation? I will support you in it.
You will.
Of course I will.
Let's get that done, John.
By the way, you know,
so we can say Franklin supported it.
It's Trump who broke the chain. The last 10 presidents had all done it voluntarily. They hadn't had any problem with it.
What have they done?
That's the point.
What is our
release their tax returns?
Franklin, wait a minute. That is the point, isn't it? They all did it. What word did you use? How did they do it?
Voluntarily.
Voluntarily. And they got elected, right? So Trump chose to not do it.
And their opponents
Trump
also
chose
didn't
to
get
not
elected.
do it, and he didn't, and he got elected as well. So the American people rendered their judgment on that issue. But you people won't accept the judgment of the American people.
How about 16-year-olds? You going to vote for that?
No.
18
party's pushing it.
A few people in my
They're
party.
pushing stacking.
First of all, here's your problem.
Are you for
John.
stacking the Supreme Court?
No.
Your party's
not for
pushing that
either.
too.
Not for that. My party is not doing that. There are some people in the party who've suggested that. But that's what parties do. They have ideas and they debate them, and then they arrive at a position.
Out of the 18 people now running for your party's nomination, name me a centrist moderate of the 18.
Oh, I think several of the Midwesterners, lots of their positions are pretty centrist.
Who?
Klobuchar certainly is.
Actually, all of the
Who is
Midwestern
Klobuchar?
moderates.
The senator from Minnesota.
Never.
The one that is mean and ugly and hateful to her staff, berates her staff and abuses them.
Okay.
She's certainly a centrist, no question about that.
What about this Muslim?
Imar man.
Yeah. What about her? What's your
Well,
opinion?
now we found out
What's your
she's-
opinion of her, Franklin?
I think she's one, like a lot of really young people, ahead of where she should be. Number two.
What do you mean? Wait a minute. What do you mean ahead of where she should be?
I think her thoughts have not crystallized.
So you mean the
very
Peter
well.
principle? She has achieved above her abilities.
Number two, she represents the district she lives in. And
Actually, talk to the Jewish people in the district, and she doesn't.
well, that's true in every district, John. Nobody represents.
Where is she from?
Where's she from?
What district?
It's somewhere in Minnesota. Isn't it?
Yeah, she's from the largest Somali population in the country.
Okay.
By the way, we now know that she has done fundraisers for CARE, which is a unindicted co-conspirator with terrorist organizations. And this is just last week. Let me tell you how she referred to 9/11. She brought up 9/11 and said that some people did something. That's how she referred to terrorists killing 3,000 American citizens. Some people did something. And she called Stephen Miller a white nationalist, the president's advisor. Stephen Miller is Jewish. I really don't think he's a white nationalist.
Why would she say something like that, Franklin?
Well, I know that there are a lot of Muslim people who feel like they've all been painted with a broad brush and held responsible for what those monsters did on 9/11, and that's not representative.
Are you
of
okay
most
with
Muslims.
CARE, unindicted co-conspirator?
I don't know anything about
They've
CARE,
been funneling money to terrorist groups, Hamas, Hezbollah. She appeared at their fundraiser, Franklin. By the way, here's a list of the Jewish people that she's singled out for criticism. Lee Zeldin, Elliot Abrams, Stephen Miller, Jared Kushner, Benjamin Netanyahu, and any Jewish person who supports AIPAC, which is the Jewish, basically Israel's lobbying arm here in America. Oh, and by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu, 5th term prime minister.
What about the Mueller report?
What about it?
Well, yesterday it was another carnival show from the Democrats, and now they're not happy.
It's got to be released, Steve. It has to be.
Well,
Franklin, does grand jury testimony need to be released?
Hold on.
Does grand jury testimony need to be released?
There are a few things in it.
He put out 4 categories that wasn't going to be
Was
released.
he wrong on any of those 4 categories?
I'm not sure about all of them. I don't know the answer to some of them. I know there's a legitimate issue about grand jury testimony.
Okay,
I also know that there are potentially a few areas in it that have top secret classifications in them.
There's two.
Okay?
There's 2
The other 2, I
And
can't
how about
comment on.
people that are mentioned in it but not charged with any crime?
That's 3.
Do grand jury?
They can frequently be identified as individual number 4.
As a defense attorney, would you want someone identified that wasn't charged with a crime if you were representing anybody?
Sure, of course not, John. But I will say this: there are certain times when we make exceptions in the interests in the national interest, and Donald Trump should want this.
Oh, Donald Trump doesn't have anything to do with it. He's turned it completely over to Barr.
Let me tell you
Rosenstein is involved, and Mueller's actually involved.
We've been dealing with that crap for 3 years almost now. Why do we want to keep continuing this thing? You don't.
First of all, it got drug out largely because the president didn't cooperate.
What did he do? What did he do to stop it?
We don't have.
What did he do? Tell me what he
Strung
did.
them along for a year and a half about whether he was going to answer questions or not.
Isn't that his right? As
I
a
didn't
US
say it
citizen?
wasn't his right, John. But if you're complaining about the length of the investigation,
did they find
no,
that
it wasn't 3.5 years, John.
What, 3 years? Then?
No,
actually, it is
2.5. I don't care.
No,
it sounds
the Mueller
like
investigation started after
yes,
Trump
the Mueller
was in office.
investigation did, but the illegal FISA warrants were a year or more before that.
This started before he even became
It was
president.
2015 is
Well,
when
you
this
guys
started.
are investigating that, right? So that
Well,
shouldn't be a
Barr
problem.
did say
so
that.
I guarantee
Barr
there'll
did
be
say
indictments
that they would
for that.
be. Well, I think there will be indictments for that.
Yeah.
By the way, since you brought that up, Comey, we now have through Freedom of Information Act requests. We now know that the things that Comey leaked to his friend, who he then told him to send to the press, included highly sensitive information. Confidential human source is identified by both true and code name, as well as evidence information obtained from that, as well as actual communications between foreign countries and our country. All of that was in the stuff that Comey actually leaked illegally.
Is any of the stuff he leaked true?
It's all true.
Okay.
No, I mean, all of this is facts, Franklin, that were actually protected, sensitive information.
Well,
So
if he broke the law,
yes,
he
he
could
ought
be
to go to
prosecuted.
jail.
Fine. You guys are in charge. Stop complaining and carping
Well, actually,
and do something.
Barr said that they would be
Because here's
investigating
exactly
that.
what's
Wait a
going to
minute, why
happen.
are you yelling?
Because you guys go down this route all the time.
Wait a minute,
oh
wait,
my
wait,
God,
wait,
you're
wait.
such victims.
We go down the route. We
Yes,
go-
y'all do. Y'all
we-
are such victims. Oh, the
since-
swamp is
since-
victimizing us.
since
But
Trump-
you are the swamp.
No, wait a minute. Since Trump was elected, we've been going through this crap you're putting out.
Actually, Franklin, we're not.
You are in charge.
People,
Quit complaining.
Franklin, the
How come the
unelected
Dems won't help
employees
clean up
are
the
the
border
swamp.
then? How come the Dems won't help clean up the border?
And by the way, Franklin, Barr said, I offered Mueller the opportunity to participate in the summary, and Mueller declined. So why isn't that the end of it?
Actually,
Because there's
that's
nothing there.
because they already supplied 4 summaries that dealt with the issues in it, and Barr chose not to
All right,
release
so
those.
let me ask you a question. So the Democrat congressman yesterday that accused Barr of producing his summary in 48 hours was lying, wasn't she, effectively? Because she knew that Mueller had given these summaries a month ago.
The
So
summaries
Barr
are
actually,
not the report.
but Barr had Mueller was actively communicating with Barr about where the report
Presumably.
was going. He was sending parts of the report to Barr before the final report came out. So that congresswoman knows that. So when she made the accusation,
we also know that Barr yesterday refused to answer the question of whether or not he had shared it with the White House.
I don't
before it came
care.
out.
My
Well, I
point is,
care.
that's a separate issue. We can talk about that. But my point is that Democratic congresswoman, when she made that soundbite that you produced this 4-page summary in 48 hours and that she couldn't believe that was possible, she's effectively lying to the public, isn't she? Because she knows.
I didn't hear what she said.
She
John, so I don't
knows that it wasn't 48 hours. She's a liar, plain and simple. And that's what your party's doing right now.
Release the information.
It will be. Barr's going to release as much of it as he can do
I think you've
without
had an investigation.
violating the law.
You've had an investigation, Franklin. Why do you have to know where the
They're wrong.
Yeah.
They've been wrong for 2 years, Mueller proved they were wrong.
Why are you?
We didn't say he violated the law.
Wait a minute. Why are you coming up with tax records again all of a sudden? All of a sudden,
Because they need something else.
This thing came out, and now that's over with, and now you're talking about Trump's tax records again. It's just harassment. It is Democratic harassment against our president that was elected.
Because we see lots and lots of information where the president seems to be profiting from his time in office.
Oh, golly.
Franklin, what did Obama ever actually do before he was elected? He's now a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Well, he'd had a best-selling book.
He was a community organizer.
He'd had a best-selling
Oh, you
book.
mean the community
before he was elected?
Yeah, you mean the one in the 90s when he said he was born in Kenya?
No,
that
there
one?
was no book that said that.
No. He said that in his publisher's biography. Franklin, I brought that into you.
John.
We found it on a hard drive where they had tried to erase it.
Vaccines cause autism.
Look, Franklin, I told you at the time. I'm not saying he was born in Kenya, but he said he was born in Kenya. Because
you
he's
go
a
off in
liar.
these black helicopter
Franklin,
la la land.
I didn't say he was born in Kenya. I said that he put it in a biography to help sell his book. One of the publishers actually said they did that because they thought it made his story look better. That's President Obama and his honesty. I've got something I want to see what Franklin thinks about this, because I'm going to criticize Republicans and Democrats on this.
Good.
So Herman Cain's name has been floated as a possible Fed appointment. You've got Republicans and Democrats fussing at him. I personally think that this is racism, and I'm not someone who claims racism very easily, but I think this is clearly racism because he is a black man with a Southern accent who supports the president. What do you think about the possibility of him being appointed, Franklin?
If I didn't know who he was, and I didn't know what his race was, and I looked at his resume, I would say that by and large he is not qualified.
What's his resume?
He ran a corporation, and he served on one regional Fed board for a while.
He was the chairman of the St. Louis, which is the second largest Fed board in the country. So he's been a chairman.
I look at his, yes, I understand that, John.
And you
I
realize
look at his
that
background, and I don't see the degree of economics training that I think is.
You do know that not everybody on the Fed is an economist.
I understand that.
There are business people on there. There are all kinds of people on there. So my point, I'm a little surprised. I think he's a black man, and they went, he speaks with a Southern accent. He's not qualified. You tell me that someone that was the CEO of a nationwide company, CEO of a nationwide company, and has been the chairman of the second largest Fed Reserve regional board in the country, is not qualified to serve on the national Fed.
It's not the qualifications I would be looking for were I the president.
What would you be?
What would you look for?
I actually think that the economic side of it, from an academic side, is better training in this circumstance.
Well, you want to hear
because you need to have a better understanding of what the
you want to hear an interesting thing about Herman Cain? He is a proponent of the widely accepted idea that raising rates is a sign of a strong economy, which actually puts him at odds with President Trump.
Okay.
Did you know that?
Yes, I read that.
That doesn't indicate that he has an understanding of economics to you? I'm just surprised. I think this is racism. I think it's in some cases possibly overt, but it is certainly subtle racism.
Republicans can't be racism.
Well, there are Republicans that are criticizing this appointment too. But I think he is eminently qualified. You know, outside of, unless you just make sure you want everybody on there to be a Harvard PhD professor in econ, I can't imagine that a man who ran as the CEO a nationwide corporation and was the chairman of the St. Louis Federal Reserve Board is not qualified to serve. And I don't think you can explain it away except that you're clouded.
Did you hear about this morning on the news, Bank of America is going to be raising their minimum wage to $20 an hour?
Yes.
They're going to start at $17 an hour and progressively go up.
Mm-hmm.
You know why they did it?
A shorter labor market is finally beginning to drive up incomes. That's a good thing.
So they're voluntarily doing it because of capitalism.
Well, the move comes the day before J.P. Morgan's Chase's Jamie Dimon and 5 other bank CEOs are scheduled to testify before the Democrat-led House Financial Services Committee in Washington.
Sure.
Well, since you brought that up, in New York City, they raised it to $15. 76.5% of full-service restaurants reduced employee hours, and 36% eliminated jobs in 2018. Also, 75% of limited service restaurants reported that they are reducing employee hours, and 53% are eliminating jobs because of the minimum wage increase. So exactly what us horrible Republicans, and you talked about economic policy, exactly what we said. They are the people who need these jobs the most are being hurt by liberal Democratic policies.
All right, next week, the Mueller report's going to be released, okay?
Hopefully.
Is there anything going to surprise anybody there?
I have no idea.
Oh, and by the way, just for good wishes, Mick Jagger had heart surgery this week in the United States of America, not in Great Britain with the greatest healthcare coverage in the world, according to the Democratic Party. So for some reason, the man who had plenty of money chose to have his healthcare services done in America, not in Great Britain.
That's where he made his money, was in America.
By the way, you're going to go blind in Great Britain too, because we now know that they are rationing eye surgery, and if you're an elderly patient, they are actually counting on you dying before you get eye surgery.
Nunez is filing 8 criminal referrals about Russia probe. You think anything's going to come from that, John?
Yes, I think you're going to find, just like what we found now on Comey, the FBI, by the way, is refusing Freedom of Information Act requests for that information. Here's what they said. It was interesting. This is kind of tied into that. CNN showed up early morning raid of Roger Stone's house. So there have been Freedom of Information Act requests placed for any kind of email communication between the FBI and CNN. The FBI has refused those requests because they said they're overly broad. Here's what's interesting. The request has specific people, specific times, specific dates for the request, and that's overly broad. That's the swamp, Franklin.
We're not scared of any investigations. We say go for them.
Well, I tell you what, you're fixing to get your wish.
Okay.
I can't wait until it comes true.
Great.
Because
my position's real clear, Steve. Unlike you guys,
unlike us,
investigate, and if there's a crime, prosecute. You guys are, oh God, don't investigate.
I don't think so,
because we didn't do anything wrong.
Well, you got to have something to investigate. Let's have something to investigate. We're going to investigate why there was an investigation. That's what we're fixing to investigate. Why was there an investigation?
By the way, did you see President Trump's approval ratings at 53% now?
No, it's at 42%.
I bet it's 88% when the vote comes down.
Yeah, well, according to Rasmussen,
I can't find anybody in Cleveland.
Not according to the Real Clear Politics average
Franklin,
or the Nate Silver average.
I can't find anybody in Cleveland that thinks Democratic except you, and that includes the Democrat friends I know. They've all said they give up. They're not going to vote for any of those idiots.
They've just given up talking to you.
No, they've just given up. They ain't got anybody to vote for.
Believe me, they've just given up.
Your Democratic Party is falling apart quick.
Okay.
Which is what
See you next week, folks.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey. Catch them again on Whoop FM at noon today and every Wednesday morning from 7:30 to 8:30.